Welcome back to the Coins Numismatic series. Today, I've got something truly exciting lined up for all the collectors, history lovers, and treasure hunters out there. Imagine pulling change from your pocket, glancing at a simple Washington quarter, and realizing it might be worth far more than just 25 cents. That's the magic of numismatics, the thrill of uncovering stories, errors, and history hidden in plain sight. In this video, we're diving deep into the top 5 Washington quarters from the 1980s and early 1990s, coins that might seem ordinary at first but actually hold fascinating secrets about America's minting history, their designs, and even their collectible values in today's market. Let's start with our first coin, and I promise you, by the end, you'll be checking your pocket change with a brand new perspective. 1980 D Washington Quarter Dollar Coin. The year is 1980. America is on the edge of a new decade. Reagan is about to take office, inflation is hitting hard, and the nation is gearing up for massive social and economic changes. In Denver, the U.S. Mint was striking millions upon millions of quarters featuring the classic Washington portrait on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse. The 1980 D Washington Quarter Dollar Coin is one of those pieces, and while at first glance it may look like just another coin, the truth is, collectors know this issue hides some fascinating stories. On the obverse, the design is by John Flanagan, first introduced in 1932 to celebrate the bicentennial of George Washington's birth. Washington faces left, his profile bold and noble. Above him arcs the word liberty, while to his left shoulder, the phrase, "In God We Trust," is struck clearly. Below the bust, you'll find the date, 1980, and just beside Washington's ponytail is the all-important mint mark, D, representing the Denver Mint. The reverse showcases the familiar heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, clutching a bundle of arrows as a symbol of strength and defense. Beneath the arrows lies an olive branch, a reminder of peace. Around the rim is inscribed, United States of America, at the top, E pluribus unum, just above the eagle's head, and quarter dollar, along the bottom. While this design had been in use since 1932, small die variations and the sheer number of coins struck in different conditions make it endlessly interesting to numismatists. In terms of mintage, the Denver Mint produced over 518 million quarters in 1980. A massive number, which means that circulated examples are still very common today. You'll often find them in pocket change, worn from decades of use. However, the real treasures are found in high-grade mint state examples. Collectors specifically seek coins graded MS65 or higher, where the luster shines brightly and contact marks are minimal. A standard circulated 1980 D quarter is worth only its face value of 25 cents, but in pristine mint state, values climb dramatically. An MS65 coin might fetch $15 to $20, while ultra-gem specimens graded MS67 or higher can sell for several $100s at auction. In fact, some registry-quality 1980 D Washington quarters have crossed the $1,000 mark, proving that condition truly is king in numismatics. Now, let's talk about errors. Error coins are where the excitement often lies. The 1980 D is known for some fascinating mistakes that slip through the mint's quality control. Off-center strikes, for example, can command hefty premiums depending on how dramatic the misalignment is. A coin struck 10% off-center might sell for $50 to $100, while one with 50% of the design missing can bring several $100s. Another interesting variety is the clipped planchet, where a small section of the coin is missing due to a mishap during the blank cutting process. Collectors love these quirky pieces, and depending on the size of the clip, values can range from $25 to over $200. There are also examples of double strikes, where the coin received 2 impressions from the dies, creating a ghost-like doubling of the design. These errors are rare, but when they appear on a 1980 D quarter, they can easily sell for several $100s, sometimes more if the doubling is bold and dramatic. The coin also exists in what collectors call full strike or weak strike varieties. Because of the mint's massive production in 1980, many coins came out with weak details, especially on Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers. High-quality full strike examples are scarce, which pushes their value up considerably. From a collector's standpoint, the 1980 D Washington quarter is an essential piece for anyone building a date and mint mark set of Washington quarters. It represents the beginning of a new decade, a time when the U.S. Mint was under heavy demand, producing billions of coins annually. While common in lower grades, finding and holding on to high-end examples has proven rewarding for many collectors. The market for these coins has been steady, with values slowly climbing for top-graded specimens. While it might not carry the immediate rarity of earlier silver Washington quarters, those minted before 1965, the 1980 D still has its place in modern numismatics. Its large mintage means it's accessible for beginners, but its condition rarity makes it appealing to advanced collectors chasing registry sets. So, when you come across a 1980 D Washington quarter, don't dismiss it as just spare change. Take a closer look. Examine the strike, check for errors, and if you're lucky enough to find one in mint state, you might just be holding a small but valuable piece of history. The 1980 D Washington $quarter coin is more than just money, it's a symbol of its time, a piece of numismatic artistry and a collectible with real potential. From circulation finds to high-grade gems and exciting mint errors, this coin has something for everyone. That's why it deserves its spot on our list of the top 5. 1988 D Washington $quarter coin. As we move forward to the late 1980s, the Washington quarter continued its long reign as America's most familiar 25-cent piece. The year 1988 brought us a Denver minted issue that, while common in circulation, hides some truly fascinating stories, errors, and condition rarities that have made it a standout among modern quarters. The 1988 D Washington $quarter coin is one that every serious collector should know about, not only for what it represents in history but also for the values it can command in the numismatic market. Let's set the stage. In 1988, the United States was experiencing the final year of Ronald Reagan's presidency. The country was booming economically, and the mint was operating at full capacity to meet the demand for circulating coinage. In Denver, Colorado, the mint struck over 596 million Washington quarters that year. That's an enormous mintage, and it explains why you can still easily find these coins in your pocket change today. But just because they're common doesn't mean they're worthless. Far from it. Looking at the coin's design, we see the familiar work of John Flanagan on the obverse. Washington's left-facing bust dominates the front, a timeless tribute first introduced in 1932. The inscriptions are the same classics: Liberty at the top, In God We Trust, just to the left of Washington's portrait, and the year, 1988, directly below his neckline. The D mint mark, identifying it as a Denver coin, is located just to the right of Washington's ponytail. The reverse, again, features the heraldic eagle. With wings outspread in strength and authority, the eagle clutches arrows in its talons as a symbol of military readiness. Beneath it rests an olive branch, signifying peace. Surrounding the design is the proud text United States of America and $quarter, with E pluribus unum above the eagle's head. While the design remained unchanged for decades, small die variations, minting quality, and surface preservation are what make this year's quarter collectible. Now, let's talk about condition and value. Most 1988 D quarters you encounter in circulation are heavily worn and worth only face value. But here's the key: collectors are hunting for mint state examples, especially those graded MS66 or higher. In lower mint state grades like MS63 or MS64, the coin may only fetch a few dollars, maybe $3 to $10 at best. But once you move into MS66 territory, prices rise dramatically. An MS66 coin can sell for $50 to $100, while the extremely rare MS67 examples have crossed into the hundreds, even approaching $1,000 at auction depending on eye appeal and luster. The strike quality is an important factor with the 1988 D. Many Denver minted coins of the 1980s suffered from weak strikes due to the sheer volume of production. Washington's hair, especially the curls near his temple, often appear mushy or flattened. Similarly, the eagle's feathers on the reverse may lack detail. Collectors pay strong premiums for examples with a crisp, bold strike where all the design elements are sharply defined. But where things get even more exciting is in the world of errors and varieties. The 1988 D Washington quarter is known for several minting mishaps that can turn a 25-cent coin into something far more valuable. For instance, off-center strikes are highly desirable. Depending on how far off the design is shifted, values can range from $50 for a minor misalignment to over $300 for a coin that's 50% off-center but still shows a clear date and mint mark. Another known error is the clipped planchet. This occurs when the blanking machine accidentally punches out overlapping blanks, leaving part of the coin missing. Clipped planchets on 1988 quarters can bring anywhere from $25 to $150 depending on size and severity. Double strikes and die cracks are also occasionally found on this issue. A strong double strike, where the coin shows two overlapping impressions, can easily sell for several $100s. Die cracks, on the other hand, appear as raised lines across the coin's surface caused by a damaged die. While minor cracks don't add much premium, dramatic cuts or large die breaks can be very collectible. There's even a minor but intriguing variety reported with the repunched mint mark, RPM, on some 1988 D quarters. This is where the D mint mark was punched more than once into the die, leading to a slight doubling effect. While not as famous as other RPMs in US coinage, these varieties still attract attention from specialists and can command $20 to $50 depending on grade. So why is the 1988 D so important to collectors? For one, it marks the tail end of an era. Just over a decade later, in 1999, the U.S. Mint would launch the 50-state quarters program, effectively replacing the long-running eagle reverse design. That makes coins like the 1988 D part of the last generation of traditional Washington quarters. For collectors who appreciate history, that gives it extra appeal. The collector interest in this coin also comes from its accessibility. Beginners can start by pulling examples from circulation or coin rolls, often at face value, while advanced collectors pursue the highest graded specimens or rare era varieties. It's a coin that bridges the gap between everyday pocket change and serious numismatics. Market demand for the 1988 D has remained steady, with particular spikes whenever high-grade examples appear at auction. Registry set collectors, those aiming to build the finest graded sets of Washington quarters, are always on the hunt for coins in MS67 or higher. Because so few survive with perfect strikes and minimal marks, competition is fierce and prices can soar. At the same time, era collectors chase the off-centers clips and double strikes that make the 1988 D such a fun coin to study. This diversity of collector interest ensures that the 1988 D Washington quarter will remain a staple in the hobby for years to come. So the next time you're going through your change, don't overlook that 1988 quarter with a D under Washington's hair. Take a closer look at the strike. Check for luster. Examine it for errors. What looks like an ordinary coin could, in fact, be a rare gem hiding in plain sight. The 1988 D Washington $quarter coin is a piece of history, a window into America's coinage of the 1980s, and a treasure for collectors who appreciate the blend of artistry, era potential, and condition rarity. It's coins like this that remind us why numismatics is so much more than just collecting. It's about discovering the stories etched in metal, stories that carry the past into the present with every coin we hold. And that's why the 1988 D earns its rightful place on our list of the top 5 Washington quarters every collector should know. 1988 P Washington $quarter coin. Now we turn our attention from Denver to Philadelphia, and the 1988 P Washington $quarter coin. At first glance, it looks nearly identical to its Denver counterpart. But in numismatics, the devil is always in the details, and for collectors, the Philadelphia issue of 1988 offers its own unique story, challenges, and opportunities for value. The year 1988 was one of major production for the U.S. Mint. Between the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, over 1.2 billion Washington quarters were struck. Of that total, Philadelphia accounted for roughly 562 million coins. While that means the 1988 P is not rare in terms of sheer numbers, condition, strike quality, and era varieties make this an exciting piece for collectors. On the obverse, we again see John Flanagan classic 1932 design. George Washington's portrait is front and center, facing left with strong, classical features. Above him arcs the word liberty. To the left of his bust is the national motto, "In God We Trust." And directly below his chin lies the date, 1988. What sets this coin apart is its mint mark, or rather, its lack of one. For quarters minted in Philadelphia before 1980, there was no mint mark. But by 1988, Philadelphia had adopted the P mint mark, and you'll find it just to the right of Washington's ponytail, under the ribbon. That P tells us this coin was struck at the historic Philadelphia Mint, America's very first minting facility. The reverse, of course, features the familiar heraldic eagle, wings stretched upward in authority. The eagle clutches a bundle of arrows in its talons, symbolizing readiness to defend the nation, while beneath it rests an olive branch, representing peace. Encircling the eagle are the inscriptions, United States of America, above, E pluribus unum, just above the eagle's head, and $quarter at the bottom. It's a design that lasted over 6 decades, a testament to its strength and tradition. Now, let's talk about mintage and rarity. With 562 million coins struck, the 1988 P is not scarce by any means. Circulated examples are everywhere, and most are worth only their face value of 25 cents. But numismatics is about quality, and this is where the story changes. Finding a 1988 P quarter in pristine condition, free of nicks, scratches, and with full strike details, is much harder than you might think. In circulated grades, the 1988 P is worth only face value. In mint state grades, however, the coin begins to command premiums. An MS-63 example might sell for $3 to $5. At MS-65, values climb to $20 to $40. At MS-66, prices push up toward $100. And at the elusive MS-67 level, the coin can fetch several $100s. In fact, high-end 1988 P quarters with exceptional luster and eye appeal have sold at auction for over $1,000. That's a huge return on a coin that most people would overlook as simple pocket change. Strike quality is another major factor. The Philadelphia Mint in the 1980s was producing coins at a furious pace, and as a result, many quarters were struck with worn dies or under heavy pressure, leading to weak details. Collectors look closely at Washington's hair, especially the strands above his ear and temple, and at the eagle's breast feathers. Sharp, fully detailed strikes are much scarcer and more desirable than weak ones. Now let's move into the realm of errors and varieties. The 1988 P Washington quarter has its fair share of them, and this is where values can skyrocket. One of the most sought-after errors is the off-center strike. A small misalignment, where only part of the design is shifted, might bring $25 to $50. But a dramatic 40% or 50% off-center strike, where large portions of the design are missing yet the date remains visible, can sell for $200 to $400 or more. Another error to look for is the clipped planchet. These appear when the blank cutting machine overlaps punches, leaving the coin with a crescent-shaped clip along its edge. A clipped 1988 P quarter can bring $50 to $150, depending on the size and visibility of the clip. There are also examples of broad strikes and double strikes. A broad strike happens when the coin is struck without the collar that normally holds it in place, causing the design to spread out unnaturally. These errors often sell for $50 to $100. Double strikes, especially when the second strike is off-center and creates a ghostly second image of Washington or the eagle, are even more valuable, often bringing several $100s. Die cracks and cuts are also collectible. A cut occurs when part of the die breaks away, leaving a raised, blob-like area of metal on the coin. While minor die cracks are common and only bring small premiums, dramatic cuts can transform an ordinary 1988 P quarter into a highly desirable error piece worth $100 or more. Another interesting aspect of the 1988 P is the strike-through error. This happens when foreign material, such as grease or wire, gets between the die and the planchet during striking. The result is a coin with unusual impressions or missing details. Strike-through errors are highly collectible, with values ranging from $25 to $200 depending on severity and uniqueness. So, why do collectors care about the 1988 P? For one, it represents the Philadelphia Mint's output during the late 1980s, a time when America was transitioning politically, culturally, and economically. From a numismatic perspective, it's a coin that combines accessibility with challenge, easy to find in circulation, but very tough to find in top condition or with dramatic errors. The market interest in this coin is broad. Beginners can easily add one to their collection by plucking it from circulation, while advanced collectors chase high-grade slabs or rare errors. Auction results over the past decade show steady demand for MS-67 examples, with competition driving prices upward whenever one hits the block. And let's not forget the sentimental factor. For collectors who grew up in the 1980s, the 1988 P quarter is a piece of childhood. Many remember pulling these coins from pocket change, vending machines, or allowance money. Today, those same collectors are adults, and they're revisiting the coins of their youth with renewed appreciation. That nostalgia fuels demand just as much as rarity does. In the grand scheme of Washington quarters, the 1988 P may not carry the silver content of pre-1965 issues or the historic rarity of key dates like the 1932 D and 1932 S. But it holds its own place in the series. It's a modern coin with real potential, both for condition rarity and for striking errors that captivate the imagination. So the next time you're sifting through change, don't ignore that 1988 P. Look for sharp details, strong luster, or maybe even an error. You never know, what looks like an ordinary coin could turn out to be a valuable prize. The 1988 P. Washington $quarter coin is more than, it's a link to America's history, a canvas of minting quirks, and a collector's challenge that continues to surprise hobbyists more than 3 decades after it was struck. That's why it earns its rightful place on our list of top 5 Washington quarters every collector should know. 1989 D. Washington $quarter coin. As we move from the late 1980s into 1989, we come to a quarter that bridges 2 fascinating decades of American history. The 1989 D. Washington $quarter coin may not be rare in circulation, but it carries its own share of numismatic intrigue, thanks to its massive mintage, unique era varieties, and the ongoing hunt for high-grade examples. It is yet another coin that proves even modern quarters can hold real value in the collector world. Let's set the scene. In 1989, George H. W. Bush was sworn in as the 41st President of the United States, succeeding Ronald Reagan. The Cold War was reaching its dramatic conclusion, with the Berlin Wall set to fall later that year. It was a period of transition, and while the events of the world were monumental, everyday life in America carried on, including the continued production of Washington quarters at the Denver Mint. The mintage of the 1989 D quarter was staggering. Over 896 million coins were struck in Denver alone. With nearly 1 billion examples produced, it's safe to say that this coin is one of the most common Washington quarters of its era. Circulated examples are still found by the handful in pocket change, coin rolls, and bank boxes. But as with all coins, the story changes when you look closely at strike quality, condition rarity, and errors. Design-wise, the obverse continues with John Flanagan's famous portrait of George Washington, which had been in use since 1932. Washington faces left, his stern but dignified profile a reminder of America's first president. The inscriptions are the familiar ones, Liberty across the top, In God We Trust, to the left, and the date, 1989, at the bottom. The Denver mintmark, the all-important D, is placed to the right of Washington's ponytail ribbon. The reverse remains the heraldic eagle, wings stretched wide, clutching arrows and perched above an olive branch. Surrounding inscriptions include United States of America at the top and $quarter at the bottom, with the Latin motto E pluribus unum directly above the eagle's head. While this design had been familiar for decades, small die differences and strike qualities mean that no two coins are truly identical under close examination. So, what about value? In circulated condition, the 1989 D is worth face value only. There are simply too many out there. But mint state examples tell a different story. In MS-63, the coin might be worth a couple of dollars, and by MS-65, it can bring $10 to $15. At the MS-66 level, prices rise to $50 or more. The real prizes are the MS-67 coins, extremely scarce for this date. With almost 1 billion coins struck, you'd think plenty of gems survived, but the reality is different. Most were struck carelessly, and even those that left the mint with strong details were quickly bagged, shipped, and distributed, accumulating countless contact marks. That's why a top-graded MS-67 1989 D Washington quarter can fetch several $100s at auction, sometimes even pushing toward $1,000 if the coin has booming luster and perfect eye appeal. One of the key challenges with the 1989 D is strike quality. Denver mint quarters of this period are notorious for weak strikes, especially on Washington's hair and the eagle's chest feathers. Collectors seeking sharp detail have a tough hunt ahead. Full, crisp strikes are considerably scarcer and always command a premium. Now, let's dive into what makes the 1989 D truly exciting for error collectors. This year's Denver production is known for some dramatic mistakes. One of the most popular errors is the off-center strike. A small shift might not seem like much, but even a 10% off-center strike on a 1989 D quarter can sell for $50 or more. If the misalignment is 40% to 50%, leaving large portions of the design missing but with the date and mint mark still visible, the coin's value can skyrocket to $200, $300, or even higher. Another sought-after error is the clipped planchet. When blanks are punched too close together from the metal strip, the result is a coin with a curved or crescent-shaped missing section. Collectors love these quirky coins, and a clipped 1989 D quarter can sell anywhere from $30 to $150 depending on the size of the clip. There are also examples of double strikes and broad strikes. A double strike, especially when visibly offset, can create a fascinating coin where Washington appears doubled or ghost-like. These can easily bring hundreds of dollars. A broad strike, meanwhile, results when the collar fails during striking, allowing the coin to expand outward. Broad-struck 1989 D quarters, though less dramatic than double strikes, are still desirable, usually valued at $50 to $100. Die cracks and die breaks, also known as cuts, are common for this issue due to the massive production and wear on the dies. While small die cracks might only add a couple of dollars in premium, larger die breaks that obscure parts of the design can attract strong collector interest, with values reaching $100 or more depending on the severity. Another variety worth mentioning is the repunched mintmark (RPM). Some 1989 D quarters show evidence that the mintmark D was punched more than once into the die, resulting in a faint doubling effect. While not as dramatic as other famous RPMs in U.S. coinage, these varieties still attract specialists and can be worth $20 to $50 in mint state. So why does the 1989 D matter to collectors? It's not just about value, it's about context. This coin was struck at the end of the 1980s, a decade of enormous political, cultural, and economic change in America. From a numismatic perspective, it represents the continuation of the classic Washington design just before the revolutionary changes of the late 1990s, when the 50-state quarters program would completely redefine the series. Collectors are drawn to the 1989 D for several reasons: its accessibility, its potential in high grades, and its era varieties. Beginners can easily find one in circulation or in rolls, while advanced collectors pursue pristine examples and rare errors. Auction results confirm the demand. MS-67 examples consistently attract bidding wars, and dramatic errors command impressive premiums. The 1989 D Washington quarter is a reminder of the beauty of modern coin collecting. It shows us that value isn't always about rarity in numbers but about condition, quality, and the little quirks that make each coin unique. So the next time you spot a 1989 quarter with a D mint mark, don't just toss it into the change jar. Take a moment to study it. Look at the strike detail. Check for luster. Search for unusual errors. You never know, you might be holding a coin that's worth far more than 25 cents. 1991 D Washington quarter dollar coin. We've reached the final coin on our list, and it comes from the early 1990s, a decade of technological change, cultural shifts, and new beginnings for America. The 1991 D Washington quarter dollar coin may seem like just another quarter to most people, but collectors know that even modern issues can carry surprises, especially when we factor in condition, rarity, and minting errors. Let's explore why this Denver minted quarter has earned a place in our top 5. The year 1991 was a momentous one in world history. The Gulf War unfolded early in the year, the Soviet Union collapsed by the end, and America was transitioning into the post-Cold War era. On the numismatic side, the Washington quarter still carried John Flanagan's iconic 1932 portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse. But this was also one of the last years before the U.S. Mint began planning the revolutionary 50-state quarters program that would launch in 1999. In many ways, the 1991 D quarter stands at the crossroads between the classic Washington eagle design and the new age of modern commemorative-style quarters. Design-wise, the obverse features Washington facing left, the word Liberty boldly above, In God We Trust, to his left, and the year 1991 below. The mint mark D appears to the right of Washington's ponytail, marking its origin at the Denver Mint. The reverse continues with the heraldic eagle, perched on a bundle of arrows and framed by olive branches, with the inscriptions, United States of America, at the top, E pluribus unum, just above the eagle, and, quarter dollar, at the bottom. By this point, the design had been in use for nearly 6 decades, familiar, traditional, and a part of everyday American life. Now let's look at the numbers. The mintage of the 1991 D quarter was enormous. Over 630 million coins struck in Denver that year. That means in circulation, this coin is very common, and worn examples are worth only face value. But as always, the story changes when we move into the world of mint state and era varieties. For condition rarity, the 1991 D is especially interesting. While millions were minted, the sheer speed of production often meant weaker strikes and lower quality control. Many coins show flat details in Washington's hair or on the eagle's feathers, and bag marks are common due to rough handling at the mint. Finding a 1991 D in pristine condition, with a sharp strike and minimal contact marks, is far more difficult than the mintage numbers suggest. Values for this coin reflect that challenge. In lower mint state grades like MS-63, it may only be worth $2 to $4. At MS-65, the value climbs to around $10 to $20. By MS-66, prices jump significantly, with values in the $50 to $80 range. And at the elusive MS-67 level, the coin becomes a true prize, often fetching several $100s at auction. Exceptional specimens with blazing luster and perfect eye appeal have even crossed into the $1,000 range. That's an incredible leap from a face value quarter to a four-figure collector's item, all based on condition. Now let's talk about errors and varieties, which make the 1991 D particularly exciting. Like other Denver issues of the late 1980s and early 1990s, this coin is known for some dramatic mistakes. The most popular are off-center strikes. A slight off-center of 5% to 10% may only bring $20 to $40, but a dramatic 40% or 50% off-center strike, especially if the date and mint mark remain visible, can sell for $200 to $400 or more. Another collectible mistake is the clipped planchet. These errors occur when blank planchets are cut too close together from the metal strip, leaving a curved clip missing from the edge of the coin. A clipped 1991 D quarter can range from $30 to $150, depending on the size and severity of the clip. There are also broad strikes and double strikes. A broad strike, caused by the collar malfunctioning during striking, results in a coin that appears wider than normal with distorted edges. These are popular among collectors and typically bring $50 to $100. Double strikes, where the coin is struck twice, often off-center the second time, can be much more dramatic and valuable, ranging from $200 to $500 depending on how visible the doubling is. Die cracks and die breaks also appear on 1991 D quarters. While small die cracks may not add much value, large breaks, or cuds, are highly collectible, especially when they obscure parts of the design. These can range from $50 to $150 depending on size. Another fascinating error associated with the 1991 D is the strike-through. This happens when grease, wire, cloth, or other foreign material gets between the die and the planchet. The result is a coin with missing details or unusual depressions. Strike-through errors are popular and can bring anywhere from $25 to several $100s depending on their uniqueness. While no major double die varieties are widely recognized for the 1991 D, collectors still check these coins carefully for small die anomalies, repunched mint marks, or unusual surface features. The thrill of discovery always keeps interest alive in modern issues. Why is the 1991 D Washington quarter significant in the bigger picture? First, it represents the final years of the classic eagle reverse. Just 8 years later the state quarters program would revolutionize U.S. coinage, making earlier eagle designs nostalgic relics of a bygone era. For collectors building full date and mint mark sets of Washington quarters, the 1991 D is an essential piece that bridges the traditional and the modern. It's a great teaching coin. For beginners, it shows how even common modern coins can have real collectible value when condition and errors are factored in. For advanced collectors, it provides a challenge. Finding the sharpest struck highest grade examples is no easy task, especially considering the Denver Mint's reputation for weaker strikes during this period. Finally, the 1991 D has a strong collector appeal because it connects to memory and nostalgia. Many collectors today grew up in the 1990s, handling coins like this daily in vending machines, arcades, and allowance money. Now, as adults, they revisit those familiar coins with fresh eyes, hunting for hidden gems and condition rarities. That emotional connection helps fuel demand, keeping coins like the 1991 D relevant and valuable. Auction records confirm this interest. While average mint state coins sell for modest sums, the rare MS-67 examples consistently attract fierce bidding wars, and dramatic errors never fail to turn heads. The market may not explode overnight for the 1991 D, but steady demand and the ongoing challenge of finding superb examples ensure it holds a solid place in numismatic circles. So the next time you come across a 1991 quarter with a D mint mark, don't dismiss it as just another piece of change. Examine it carefully. Check the strike quality. Look for luster. Search for errors. You might just find that a coin you once spent without a thought could be worth far more than its face value. The 1991 D. Washington $quarter coin is more than just another quarter. It's a symbol of its era, a lesson in minting challenges, and a treasure trove of potential for collectors who pay attention to the details. And that's why it rightfully earns its spot on our list of the top 5 Washington quarters that every numismatist should know.